Egypt's Biggest Mysteries Part 2, Ancient Aliens. The Giza Plateau in Egypt. The Great Pyramid is probably the most mysterious structure on Earth. It's the only surviving wonder of the ancient world and has sparked endless theories about how it was built and what it was really for. Ever since researchers began studying the Great Pyramid, they've been fascinated by the advanced math and precise measurements hidden in its design. Even the location of the Great Pyramid has caught the attention of Egyptologists. It sits almost exactly on the 30th parallel north, closer to true north than any other structure on the planet. But here's where it gets more interesting. If we go back in time, we realize that the Earth's axis shifts slowly over thousands of years, a phenomenon known as precession. So any misalignment we see today might be because it was perfectly aligned with true north at the time it was built. Not only is the Great Pyramid aligned almost perfectly to the cardinal points, but its location seems intentional too. If you draw a great circle around the Earth, based on its main and diagonal axes, those lines pass through more landmass than if you started from any other point on Earth. That means the pyramid is literally at the center of Earth's landmass. Since the first accurate survey of the Great Pyramid in 1925, mathematicians and scientists have found even more connections to geodesy, basically the science of measuring and mapping the Earth. The pyramid was built with a level of technological precision that we still can't fully replicate today. They didn't use inches like we do in the English system. They used the cubit. And interestingly, 1 cubit equals exactly 1/25 millionth of Earth's polar diameter, from the North Pole to the South Pole. So if you divide that distance into 25 million parts, 1 part would be a cubit. That's just mind-blowing. Now, if you measure the length of the pyramid at its core base level, meaning the actual corners of the structure, you get 365.24 cubits, which is the number of days in a year, down to the quarter day. The pyramid's perimeter and base also match up with fractions of Earth's latitude and longitude measurements, especially around the equator. That means the Great Pyramid isn't just a monument, it's a scale model of the Northern Hemisphere. And recently, using satellite data, researchers found another wild connection. If you take the pyramid's exact geographic coordinates, the number matches the speed of light in meters per second. Seriously. So with all this data encoded in just one structure, it's hard to believe it's all just a coincidence. The Valley of the Kings in Egypt, the Taj Mahal in Agra, India, and the tomb of King Pakal in Palenque, Mexico. These incredible burial sites, thousands of years old, are spread across the world. Most mainstream scholars believe these are simply final resting places for ancient rulers. But could they have had a deeper purpose? Maybe one that's not of this world? Why are the most massive and mysterious structures always from the distant past? Well, according to ancient texts and traditions, this knowledge wasn't discovered. It was given to our ancestors by the gods. If tombs were only meant to house the dead, then why are they almost always linked to spiritual energy, astronomy, and strong beliefs in other dimensions? Ancient cultures shared the idea of opening gateways, star portals or dimensional doors, so the soul could journey into the afterlife. They believed this physical life was just preparation for something greater. So could these ancient tombs have actually been designed to connect the dead with celestial beings? Many ancient astronaut theorists believe so. They suggest we can uncover the truth by looking deeper into Egypt's mysterious writings. Let's go to Saqqara, just west of the Nile, about 20 miles south of Cairo. This is one of the oldest and largest burial grounds in Egypt. Overlooking it is the pyramid of King Teti, the first ruler of Egypt's 6th dynasty. He built both a pyramid and a funerary temple during his reign, which was over 4,000 years ago. This pyramid is especially important because, well, it contains the oldest known religious texts in the world, the pyramid texts. According to archaeologists, the pyramid texts date back to around 2400 BCE. They contain passages about Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife, and how the pharaoh's remains were prepared for his journey into the sky after death. But according to ancient astronaut theorists, these texts didn't just guide the pharaoh to the afterlife. They gave him instructions on how to travel to other worlds. They say the Egyptians believed that about 25,000 years ago the gods lived among humans. Then one day the gods left, but the texts say that ancient Egyptians could reunite with the gods after death, not just symbolically but literally. It was a kind of interdimensional travel for the soul. In the Nile Delta, something odd happens. A dung beetle, also called a scarab, rolls a ball of dung in a perfectly straight line across the desert. It's only about 2 inches long, but what's fascinating is that this little insect is the only creature known to navigate using the light of the Milky Way galaxy. Biologists discovered this in 2013. But 5,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians had already made the scarab sacred, without even knowing about its cosmic connection. They believed it was a symbol of the gods. You'll see the scarab all over Egyptian temples and hieroglyphics. It was honestly one of the most important symbols in their culture. At Karnak Temple, near the sacred lake where pharaohs were crowned, there's a giant scarab statue representing the god Khepri. Egyptians believed the sun travelled across the sky each day, just like scarabs rolling their balls of dung across the desert. So to them, the sun's journey was powered by Khepri, the scarab god, who was seen as the pilot of Ra's solar boat. Basically, he was the navigator of the gods. But what if the Egyptians saw Khepri as more than a myth? Some ancient astronaut theorists believe that depicting Khepri as a beetle-headed being wasn't just symbolic. It might have been based on an actual encounter with something otherworldly. When you see how much they carved their history into stone, it makes you wonder, maybe these strange-looking beings did exist. Some believe we were all created by a purposeful genetic experiment, so maybe, just maybe, some of these creatures we see in ancient carvings really were real. Saqqara, Egypt, 1850. While leading an expedition to recover ancient manuscripts for the Louvre Museum in Paris, French Egyptologist Auguste Mariette noticed a strange object sticking out of the sand. Curious, he ordered the sand to be cleared away. Beneath it he found large rocks blocking what looked like the entrance to an underground chamber. After blasting through with explosives, he discovered what we now know as the Serapeum, a mysterious underground tomb complex. In April 2018, ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos and Egyptologist Ramy Romany visited this site together. Giorgio said, "So this is the Serapeum of Saqqara." Ramy replied, "Yep, amazing, isn't it?" The name Serapeum comes from Serapis, a fusion of the sacred Apis bull and Osiris in Greek form. Deep under the desert lies a 790-foot-long tunnel. Inside it, carved right into the limestone, are 24 enormous stone sarcophagi, each one about 13 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, and over 10 feet tall. How the ancient Egyptians moved these massive granite boxes, well, that still remains a mystery, as does their true purpose. This is honestly one of the most mysterious sights in all of Egypt. Just look how far this goes. These boxes, What, 70 to 75 tons each? Yeah, and the lids are another 20 to 25 tons, and yet here they are placed perfectly underground in a place that's hard for us to even breathe in, let alone transport massive stone boxes. Can we go down and check one out? Sure. Oh wow, I've read about these and seen pictures, but nothing does it justice. They're enormous. You can literally walk under them. Mainstream archaeologists believe these sarcophagi were meant to hold the remains of sacred Apis bulls. But only one of the tombs actually contained animal remains. All the others were found empty. That's sparked serious debate about the Serapeum's true purpose. Now, while Apis was considered a representation of Osiris, it's important to note the ancient Egyptians didn't worship animals. They believed animals were messengers sent by the gods and deserved deep respect. According to legend, the first Apis bull was born when a beam of light shot down from the sky and struck a cow, who then gave birth to the sacred bull. So there's clearly a cosmic connection here. Just look at the craftsmanship, the polish, the symmetry. These 90-degree angles are perfect. It's easy to cut limestone, but granite and basalt, that's a whole different challenge. Look at the inscriptions. They show false doors, symbols that allowed the Ka and Ba, the soul and spirit, to leave the mummified body. These prayers and spells were meant to bring the Apis bulls back to life, so they could join Osiris in the afterlife. While excavating the underground structure at Saqqara, Mariette found a tablet identifying the complex as the Serapeum, named after the Greek god Serapis, a blend of the Egyptian Apis bull and a Greek deity. It became a sacred place of prayer dedicated to that hybrid god. The worship of the Apis bull, later known as Serapis, goes back to the first dynasty. Egypt's earliest kings revered these bulls. Apis worship was extremely widespread in Egypt around 5,000 years ago. One of the first kings of ancient Egypt, King Menes, who united Upper and Lower Egypt, often portrayed himself as a bull. King Menes is considered the first human pharaoh, ruling around 3200 BCE, but according to ancient records before Menes, Egypt was ruled by gods who lived among humans. When the gods left, Menes inherited the throne from the divine king Horus. The Egyptians believed Horus was a real, flesh and blood being. They believed they had direct contact with the gods, their physical manifestations, and even extraterrestrial visitors who lived among them. By the end of Horus's reign, the gods no longer lived among men, but they still influenced the world. The Apis bull was believed to be one of the key connections between the divine and the mortal realms. In many ways, the Apis bull represented the bridge between Earth and the stars. So could the Serapeum's massive stone boxes have something to do with this cosmic connection? Could it be that the Serapeum of Saqqara, built over 5,000 years ago, has links to visitors from another world? Ancient astronaut theorists say, maybe, and they point to the size of the boxes as a clue. When you think of a coffin, you don't imagine anything like what's down here. These boxes are nearly 10 feet tall and 20 feet long. They're way too big for just a bull. Traditional Egyptian coffins were built to fit the exact size of the body inside, to preserve it. These boxes are way too big to even fit an Apis bull, so it raises the question, what were they actually for? Some believe more clues can be found 400 miles to the south, in a place called Almont, Egypt. In 1929, British archaeologist Sir Robert Mond excavated a crypt known as the Bucum and made a shocking discovery. At the Bucum, they found sarcophagi similar to those in the Serapeum. Inside one, they finally thought they'd found a preserved Apis bull, but when they opened the mummy, it was just a lump of tar, with a few tiny bone fragments. And that's weird because in ancient Egypt, it was taboo to destroy a body. It had to be mummified whole. The Egyptians mummified everything, not just humans, but birds, monkeys, dogs. Why? Because they believed resurrection required the body to remain intact. The Serapeum isn't just one of Egypt's strangest places. It might be one of the strangest places on Earth. There's nothing else like it. The Serapeum is a massive underground complex just south of the Giza pyramids. Inside, there are about 20 huge chambers, each containing one of these enormous granite sarcophagi. They're unbelievably heavy. The base alone weighs around 70 to 75 metric tons. The lids are another 20 to 25 tons. That's nearly 100 tons total. And they're built with unbelievable precision, polished surfaces, razor-sharp corners. What happened here is still a huge mystery. Even the Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt around 450 BCE, said these boxes were meant to hold the remains of the sacred ape